Prime Minister Mark Carney meeting with his new cabinet in Ottawa for the first time today, with critics saying it's the same old Justin Trudeau cabinet. And joining me with the challenges the new team is facing are former Liberal MP Celina Caesar-Chavannes and Conservative strategist Amanda Galbraith and NDP strategist Marion Nader. Now, Amanda, I'm going to start with you. Pierre Poilievre came out swinging yesterday, basically saying this is the same old, there's nothing new here. Do you agree with that?
I think if you look at, there's one photo actually that was quite telling of sort of the front lineup sitting at the swearing in, and it was every single senior minister from Trudeau's cabinet, like literally like end to end.
They've just shuffled the deck a little bit.
Yeah, so there are certainly new faces there, and I think some of them are quite promising, I will say that for sure. But the finance minister is the same. But
he's still fairly recent in the role. I mean, he replaced Chrystia Freeland.
Sure, but he was a very senior member of the Prime Minister. And I'm not saying François-Philippe Champagne isn't a very capable minister, but he is still a minister that was industry, that was in all of those places before. We have Sean Francis, who, was there for immigration as part of steering the ship, and what is the biggest screw up, I would say, in the country's history for at least a decade, and we're going to be paying for that for generations now. Now is in charge, of like other very senior files. So I think these are big problems, but I will say at least Pierre came out initially and said he's willing to work with the government on some things, which is an important tone.
Let's talk about some new faces. Tim Hodgson is one. He's going to be the energy minister. He's going to be dealing with Alberta. Carney has suggested he's open to a pipeline if there's consensus. Celina, what do you think of this choice?
Well, you have someone who's very seasoned, very capable of making sure that does happen. And we do need to get our energy to market. Like, we have to get it to the shore. And I think over the last 10 years, what you saw was a number of different ways in which that did not happen. And it put us on the back leg. And I think right now you have a minister and a prime minister who can patch up some differences between Alberta and the country and see if they have a way to make that happen, not just the United States, but to international markets.
Marion, you worked in Alberta. Do you see any hope here?
It's interesting because obviously the biggest thing is getting to Tidewater, which is because they're landlocked. So I think, he is a close, Carney did work with him and they're very close. I think Albertans will have an issue with the fact that the energy sector is being run out of the 401(c).
Right.
So, and that even just optically, that will not sit well with them.
Let's talk about interprovincial trade. This is a massive issue to try and overcome the Trump tariffs. Doug Ford today held a meeting, signed an agreement, a memorandum of understanding with WAP Canoe. Mark Carney is promising to eliminate interprovincial trade barriers by July 1. That seems really fast when this has been a massive problem. And I will start with you again, sure, Marion, because they've been talking about this for a long time. Why is it so hard to eliminate?
Well, because there's a lot of, each province has their own distinct issues that are valid. It's going to be hard to get everyone to agree at the same time. However, I think there is consensus now that we're in this national unity, way, that the premiers do want to find a way to work together and to create a country that is more tariff-proof, that is stronger, and to see, but it will be very difficult. And I think the problem with Carney is that he is over-delivering. And that's what you don't want to do as a new almost promising. Yeah. He's managing expectations, like he's really raising the bar, and I think that might be a problem.
But maybe that federal leadership is what is actually required because, we've seen this before. We've had Trump before. Why are we still talking about interprovincial trade? Again, in 2025, for as long as we have, right? So maybe it is that leadership. Maybe it is we need that deadline. And, you might be overpromising. But again, when we see with Carney, we have to see what he delivers. And perhaps drawing that line in the sand will get people to, start the engines and move.
Amanda, your thoughts on interprovincial trade barriers?
I think it's important. I think it's an incredibly tough battle. I think your point around, the Prime Minister raising expectations very high for himself, I think unnecessarily so. And also you're already seeing some of the provinces who made big noises, like Nova Scotia, all of a sudden they're pulling back like a teeny bit. So when they get those pressures. So yeah, it's a big issue to tackle. Do I think it's going to happen by July 1? No. And by the way, there's been a Canada Free Trade bill, law on the books, from the Trudeau government, right? And they've made very little progress on that. So I don't know why all of a sudden, maybe it will happen. Maybe in 2.5 months, the country will see reason, but I'd be surprised.
Let's talk about Trump, because he's overhanging everything in the conversations about politics, federal politics right now. He seems to be making progress, making deals with different countries, the UK, for example, although we don't have a ton of the details. What does that mean for Canada? Like, why aren't we making any progress? Does this raise any alarms for you?
I don't find myself terribly concerned about it at this point. One, I think the UK came out early and set a bar, to my mind, that is low for other countries. Accepting the 10% base tariff is a problem. Even how they agreed on access to each other's markets around beef, which are causing huge domestic problems. Like Keir Starmer's having a big domestic issue, which is why I think he tried to deliver this. I think here in Canada, we're wise to right the ship a little bit, let this relationship work, let people work behind the scenes, and not have a leader-to-leader, let's rush to the end. I mean, even the China stuff that rolled out this week, right? Mm-hmm. That really does change the equation. The longer the president has to roll into other agreements with other countries, I think a better place Canada is going to be in.
Absolutely.
Celina?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I think that is, we start off on a back leg, having an election. You know, we had a lot of kerfuffle happening. Let the dust settle. Let the relationships that have already existed with business, with other members of the Senate and Congress, let those things happen and continue to happen, not the president to prime minister relationship, because that is always going to be contentious with Trump, and see how the other agreements work out. Not that we're waiting for it. We should still have our own say, but I think, too, we need to let the dust settle, let some of the relationships that are needed to be built.
Marion, I'm going to let you have the final say.
Okay. Actually, I think a little different take on it. I actually think when it comes to Trump, Carney, it's going to be based, he had said it's going to be based on his relationship with Trump, and then everything is going to follow through from that. He is the one man who's calling the shots, who's making the decisions, who's giving the direction, and it's very much going to come from him.
Well, it's going to unfold, and we'll see it in real time. Thank you very much, each of you, for joining us. Always a pleasure to talk politics with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.